It is 22 minutes to 6. It is time to wind down. And what better company to wind down in than a man I've known for a very long time. How are you, David Kramer?
I'm very well, John. Thank
you.
We
don't see nearly enough of each other.
No, we don't.
I need to go and live where the rich people... No, I didn't say that. No, I didn't say that. And meeting for the first time the wonderfully talented Bianca Flanders, part of the wonderful cast of Canala.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good, good, good. Can I just because I know she's very kindly consented to sing a couple of tracks from Canala for us, and you brought that...
One.
Ja. Net één.
Ja.
Net één.
Ek het twee gehoor.
Just the one today.
Well, we've just practiced one.
we don't mind if he does one they haven't practiced very well. No, okay, all right. We'll do one at the end.
No, I'll do one for you.
And you'll do one for me.
Yeah.
Super, merci. And that guitar, David, that you brought in.
Yes.
Is that an old one?
It's very old. Yeah.
What's the story of that?
Well, that's one of my early guitars. I bought it about 1970 sometime, and it's got personal decorations on it, as you can see. These were burnt with a magnifying glass over many cold castle beers. Well, more than those doppies.
That snake and all the animals were done with a magnifying glass,
yes.
Focusing the sun.
Focusing the sun, yes.
That was the artistic technique.
That was what I did, yes.
People, tell everybody at home just how amazing that looks. There we go. You see, it looks.
So it's a very personalized guitar, and it's the one I really love playing. And it's got, my bicycle, my guitar, my concertina, Bobbejaan, Bokkie, and all
it's absolutely fantastic. I don't think I've certainly never seen it that close. You might have played it on stage when I watched you before. Before we get into Canala and that part, which is it's a musical style and an approach to musical history in this country that's occupied a large part of the latter part of your career. In the beginning, I mean, with how do you get from Dakomi, the Bachat and the Royal Hotel to this kind of District 6? What was that change, or was it not a change? Was it a progression in terms of your approach to music?
Well, I think from my point of view, it was a progression. But as you know, I started out as a singer-songwriter. In the late 70s, and then became famous in the early 80s with songs like the Royal Hotel and Bochum and Futsek and Stoksel Alleen and those kind of things. But then when I met with the late Barney Simon, the theatre director, and started working with him, he made me aware that I wrote songs about people, and I was very sort of descriptive in my songwriting. And he suggested that I start writing for other voices. And that was interesting to me. So instead of just writing for myself or writing in the third person, he said, why don't I write a song for a female character? So instead of describing the female character, write it for her. And that was really a wonderful kind of insight for me. To move from just writing for myself and writing for other people, and the fact he basically said to me, you're not so much a singer-songwriter, you're a storyteller.
Yeah.
And so I then...
And in order to do that, you had to write musicals, because, I mean,
yes.
Otherwise you're writing songs for a woman to sing and be recorded or sing in a nightclub.
So it started the concert I did with Barney was, Jennifer Stein was in that concert and Elsie B. Zietsman was there, and they sang some of my songs and I wrote them, kind of tailored them for. But after that, I really became quite taken with the idea of writing a musical story, and I knew nothing about musicals at that point, and so I went to London to the West End and I watched a few musicals and started to deconstruct them. And I grew up in Worcester, so I didn't ever see a musical.
Did they let you in with that hat?
Well, there's certain churches you can't go into with this hat. But so I learned about musicals, and I attempted to write a musical with Barney, and that didn't work out. And the second attempt, which was with the late Tally Peterson, was District 6 the musical, and we
And the rest, as they say, is
yeah,
history.
and then I moved into musical theatre, you know, and I'm still here.
Yeah, the late Tully Peterson, and what a sad story that is. And I mean, did you meet him because you were looking for somebody like him to write with?
Well, I'd met Tully 10 years earlier. We met again as fellow musicians. I actually was introduced to him by Des and Dawn Lindbergh. We did a folk concert.
Seagull's name is
Yeah. We did a folk concert together, and you know what's interesting in Canala, we do the song, the Jose Feliciano song, "Light My Fire," and it's done very comedically by Snare Dladla. But the reason it's in the show is because that's the first song I heard Talib singing
Really?
at this folk concert with. Yeah, he sang Jose Feliciano's "Light My Fire," and he was, you know, that's what he was good at. I mean, he was a great singer and guitar player.
I'm going to put you under some pressure now. I'll probably never get invited to anything of his again, and he'll never accept any of my invitations again. But I'm going to ask you to pick up that guitar and do David Kramer's version of Tully Peterson doing Jose Feliciano's "Light My Fire." How's that?
What are the chords for that? What is it? You know that I would be a liar. Oh, I don't know the chords. So
I don't think any of us would have known that if you hadn't told us.
I don't know the chords.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll let you off. That's all right.
I'm sorry.
That's all
that's
right. But you've got to applaud him for trying. That's brilliant.
How's that? You're very unfair. John Maytham just, you know, embarrasses me publicly, nationally.
Ah, but the way that you strummed that guitar, David, the technique in that, it just blew my mind. No, we'll keep talking. We will keep talking. So, I mean, Canala has been going on for a while now, incredibly. I mean...
Yes, well, we opened Canala last year on the 11th of February, and the reason for that was because 11th of February last year was the 50th commemoration year of the Declaration of District 6. And it was really the motivation for putting the Canala show together. To remember District 6 and to celebrate the people who once lived there and their music and culture and so on. And tomorrow is the 11th of February, a year later. And
you haven't had much of a break, have you? I mean,
we took 4 months off, and
4 months off,
so we nearly completed 8 months now. So it's been a fantastic success.
But that's one of the things about the David Kramer and previously David Kramer, Tully Peterson's shows, is that they had legs, that they could run and come back and run again and travel to another place and run and travel overseas, travel internationally and run. They have that kind of deep staying power that the great musicals have.
Yes, well, like a show like Cat and the Kings, which started down at the Dock Road Theatre in the Waterfront. You know, we toured it here in South Africa, and we were busy with it for about a year and a half in South Africa, and when we got the break to go to the West End in London. And that, of course, changed a lot of things for us. And Talib and I were busy with Cat and the Kings for 10 years. We toured internationally for 10 years with that show in in United Kingdom, and then, of course, we went to Broadway in America. We toured most of the countries in Europe. So it was a wonderful, wonderful time for us.
Let's bring in Bianca Flanders now, who is part of the cast of Canala. You've been there since the beginning, Bianca.
Not at all. I'm probably the newest member in the cast, so I joined at the end of December.
Oh, wow. Oh, dear.
I don't know how lucky you are to have me singing here today.
Because you can sing and because you're gorgeous, that's why. And I want to give you these red roses,
Thank you.
may
That's
I?
kind.
Happy Valentine's Day, Bianca. There we go.
Thank you.
And it's your first time working with David?
No, it's I think this is my third time. Yes.
Okay.
I first met Bianca Flanders when we did Blood Brothers, the Willie Russell adaptation. And she came into that show. And then I cast her in the musical Orpheus in Africa, which we did before Canala.
Oh, that was wonderful.
Yeah, Orpheus in
Goodness,
Africa.
I love the choral
and
work
she
in
was
that.
one of the two gossipy girls.
It wasn't typecasting, I just want to say.
Yeah, I just want to say. But I mean, one of the things that David has done over the years is find incredible talent that haven't had much of an opportunity to show themselves off and give them opportunity in shows like this, which then is the springboard for an extraordinary career, because once you've performed successfully in one of David's shows, you can basically do anything. I mean, was that...
Definitely. I mean, I remember I graduated about 4 years ago, and then it can be a bit tricky sometimes to get a foot in the door. And I wasn't working for about a year, I think. And then I auditioned for Blood Brothers, and yeah, I think that's exactly what Mr. Kramer does. I think he's very generous with his knowledge and giving people like a foot in the door or just a
leg up,
a helping hand,
onto
a leg
the stage.
Up. Yes.
Yeah, but it's having you can sense something in people. I think I do have a talent for sort of spotting the potential in people that maybe other people wouldn't see. And what has changed now is that we do have people like Bianca coming out of a drama school or drama college or whatever. But 30 years ago, when Talib and I did District 6 the musical, we were working with raw talent, people who had no training at all. And so there you had to make those kind of decisions and say, okay, this person has got a great voice, but, can they act and can they dance? They have to do all those things. But in the apartheid years, of course, there was very little opportunity for people to train in this field, and it certainly wasn't something that young people aspired towards. And I think that's another thing is that that I'm proud of. What Talib and I did was create musicals and create something that young people felt they wanted to be part of, and encourage them to go and study drama either at UCT or Waterfront Theatre School or something like that.
I mean, it's one of my stuck record things that I say over and over and over again, and every now and then something prompts me to say it again, that I drive down Nelson Mandela Boulevard on my way to work every morning, and every morning I drive past this vacant stretch of land which should be filled with the homes for returning District 6s. It's just, you can look whichever way you like, and everybody says it's not me, it's that person, and they say, no, it's that other person that's responsible for the slowness of this. Bianca, do you have any kind of District 6 connection yourself and your family?
Definitely. My grandmother grew up in District 6, and she moved to Walmer Estate before the forced removals, but she came to come and watch the show for the first time 2 weeks ago, and I was very nervous because she's very religious, and one of the characters sings about boobs and stuff, so I was panicking about how she was going to take it. But she loved it, and she got so emotional, and it's what I think the show really does is it really speaks to that sense of nostalgia that a lot of people have about District 6 because it was so unique and so special. And what's been beautiful was even people that are not necessarily from South Africa and don't know a lot about our history are quite moved by the show because of the story. And
it's difficult, David, because Jacob Dlamini writes about it very well in Native Nostalgia. The notion that you lived in a place which it was not a suburb, it wasn't a Constantia, doesn't mean that you couldn't have fun. And people did. They found ways. They had a huge amount of fun in District 6.
No, but that's what Canala shows you.
Yeah, but at the same time, you can't paint it all nostalgically, rose-coloured. You have to speak, if it is to last and really grip people, you have to speak to the structural stuff around it, I think. And you did very successfully in the show.
Yeah, I think, we've as I say, this one is a celebration, and it's a celebration of character, and so, you don't shy away from, the 7 steps, the gangster aspect, and the shebeens, and, all of this sort of thing. One doesn't just paint it with rose-tinted glasses, looking at it like that. But I certainly have accentuated the positive aspects, and because people, the way they remember the place, you remember the place for all the good times and the wonderful experiences you had there. Some are the tough times and some of the sad experiences get pushed to the back of your memory. But we do end the musical with a very strong message, and that is to remind people that, you know, that we've lost all of this. We've lost this heart of Cape Town. We lost this wonderful community, this not only the buildings, the people, you know, and the fantastic music that we had there was destroyed by a really, you know, senseless policy. And left with this wasteland that you've just described. And that's what we must never forget, you know, that there was that place there, and it was destroyed.
How often do you get people hanging around to talk to you afterwards who were part of the group that were forcibly removed from District 6?
Very often. It happens quite a lot. People get very emotional after watching the show. And we've had a lot of people that have actually left, so their families were part of the forced removals, and then they actually moved, and now they just happen to be in Cape Town watching the show, and they are very touched and moved by what they see.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, people, you know, who have emigrated to Australia or Canada, we get those kind of returnees. They're very keen to talk about it, but the show has been geared for almost the next generation. Because we get a lot of young people who come in and say, "Oh yeah, my grandfather and they always were talking about District 6, you know, to the point that I was bored. But now that I've seen the show, I understand, you know, why they felt the way they did." So there's a lot of that, of the sort of younger generation making a connection to their own family history. You know, maybe you did that, Bianca.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's a terrible question, but how long is the song that you're going to sing? I want to make sure that I leave enough time for it. I don't want to have to cut it short.
2.5 minutes.
Is that all?
Yeah.
Oh.
3 minutes.
Chosen a longer
I'll sing
one.
Another song.
Okay, all right. Because this run's coming to an end fairly soon.
At the end of February, we're finishing.
And then? And then another break, and
I'm working on a new project for the.
And now he's not going to tell me anything about that new project, is he?
I can tell you.
Oh, all right.
I'm working. There's the Kaka and Ka, which is the festival in Oudtshoorn, the Kunstefees in Oudtshoorn, which is in April, and I have written the first Afrikaans hip hop musical for that.
There's probably a reason why nobody's tried it before.
So I'm working with a very talented young man from Namaqualand. His name is Vito, and he raps in Nama Afrikaans, and he has created you know, most of the songs, and I have structured the story and helped him here and there with the structuring of the songs. So we're looking forward to that challenge of doing a hip-hop Afrikaans musical.
Nama Afrikaans hip-hop musical, well, just to niche it even more. Do you have... I was a performer for 10 years, not a very good one, otherwise I would have been a performer still. But I don't think ever in those 10 years did I know, when I was coming to the end of one job, what my next job would be. I was not somebody who had jobs lined up. I hope you're much more talented, so you have...
I know that I can pay my rent until the end of July, which is quite exciting, without having to waitress or anything like that. So, yeah. You know, it's just... I feel like when you're young and you don't necessarily have anyone depending on you, I just have to look after myself at the moment. I figured, why not? Why not try, you know?
When you're together, all right, you haven't been together with the cast that long because you joined fairly recently, because people do, they get other opportunities to come to David and say, do you mind? Yes, I'll replace you. I don't know quite how it works. But I wonder, when you are together for such a long time, and your cast did quite often stick together a long time, is there a conversation, let's do something together, Snare, let you and me do something, when next time both of us are out of work, we've learned so much from working with David, let's do something on our own?
Well, I think in Bianca's case, she met the guy that she's going out with right now.
I hope he doesn't mind about the red roses I gave you.
Oh, wow, okay.
Those red roses didn't mean anything.
So all sorts of liaisons are formed in these companies. Yeah, I mean, people do work together, and they do start to dream up new shows and new ideas. I think Bianca's moving on to another show which some of the cast members will be in.
Yes. Yeah.
Would you tell us about the song that the two of you are now going to perform for us?
Well, the song is sung by, what's your name?
Evelyn Williams.
You see, he's in that Afrikaans hip-hop Nama thing. He knows all those names.
Okay, I need to connect with the show again. So Evelyn Williams is the character that Bianca plays, and she is described by a granddaughter and through a series of photographs in an album, and at one point, Evelyn, who has a great singing voice, sees a poster for the Star Bioscope for a talent show, and this comes almost straight after the declaration of District 6 as a white group area. And so she starts to wander through the streets of District 6, looking at it with new eyes, thinking about where will all these people go, what will happen to these buildings. And at the same time, she's excited about, becoming a singer and hoping to enter the talent competition and win it. So it's called On My Way. Should we do it?
Please do.
Okay.
Shall I do it?
The sun is shining as I walk down Hanover Street past the Rose and Crown. I see Gladys hanging, washing on her balcony. I wave to her, she waves back to me. There's the old fish market, the little wonder store. I hear saxophone music drifting through an open door. I grew up in these streets. I grew up listening to the Christmas choir. When they strum that old banjo, that crazy rhythm sets my heart on fire. Here I sat at my father's feet as he
CapeTalk, your #1 news and talk station. And now,
dreaming dreams of singing at the start. Turn 20 and I'm full of hope. Okay, on my way to the start.
Second verse.
Okay, let's go again.
I was going to do that.
Do it.
I was going to be the band.
Please be the band. I'm going to stand up while you're being the band. This is high notes coming.
Hey, there we go.
I've just turned 20 and I'm full of hope. On my way to the Star Bioscope, decided to enter the talent show. If I don't try now, how will I know? Can I compete with the rest of them? Maybe beat the best of them. Time for me to take a chance. Time for me to sing and dance. And now I'm on my way. I'm so happy.
Where am I? I'm on my...
Thank goodness this bit's not going.
I'm on my way.
The precociously talented Bianca Flanders and the, well, slightly stuttering David Kramer.
I'm on my way. I'm so happy I could shout. I'm pleased to say everything's working out. I won't stop till I reach the top. I won't stop till I reach the top. And when I reach the top is where I'll stay.
I'm on my way. I'm so happy I could shout. I'm pleased to say everything's working out. I won't stop till I reach the top. I won't stop till I reach the top. And when I reach the top is where I'll stay. I'm on my way.
Bianca Flanders.
Thank you very much. Thank you, David. Thank you, Bianca. And thank you all for coming safely home.
Absolute star.